Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snackbox. Hope you all are having an amazing day, guys. In this video, I want to talk about this new rewards calendar that launched today. Plarium is really generous and is giving us a lot of free stuff. So every day from February the 9th, we will get some rewards. And on top of that, you can also vote for a free legendary relic, okay? So that we have three choices here, and we're gonna go over them, and I'm also gonna give you my thoughts and opinions on this. Which relic is the best one to pick, which performs well in what area, and so on, and which one you shouldn't pick. So let's see. So far, we got a pretty dominant vote going on right here for Gore Crescent. So let's start off with this relic. All right. So this relic right here is most of the times used in like speed farming comps for dungeons and so on a Siegfried, on a Wukong, on a Baron, on champions that deal splash damage. And the reason for that is because the Vera's next attack after killing an enemy deals 20% more damage. It's from the Chimera group, so that's also a very important factor which you have to consider. Chimera relic mats are, the one group where you get the most from, okay? So that's also something you have to keep in mind. But yeah, like I said, I use this, for example, on my Wukong, okay? I have a speed farm team for the event dungeon, and, he just one-shots stuff. And the reason for that, a big reason for that, obviously, is the gear, but also this relic. And this relic has, on level 4, 35% extra damage after killing an enemy. And you can also fit 2 circular gemstones in here, which is the dungeon Delver, and here you get extra 10% damage. Okay, so that's 20% damage plus the 35, that's 55% more damage, okay, on the splash. And then you can, also fit some nice triangular gemstones in here and, push the damage even further. So in this particular situation, the Gore Crescent is probably the best in slot. You also, you have this skill right here, which already ignores defense, so you don't really need more ignore defense. You will probably build him in a Merciless set and just have enough Death Ignore with a 6-star blessing. So that's kind of like an end game use of this relic. And this is the best case scenario where this relic is used. Now, in terms of general use, this is not the best relic, in my opinion, from these relics that are offered. Mainly because you have to kill someone to get that extra damage, and not many champions do benefit from this instantly. Okay, so that is kind of a thing, and also the stats are not that great. Okay, you have attack as main stat and then crit damage. I mean, both stats are pretty solid, but you're probably not going to rank it up to max to get the speed. Okay, so you will probably end up on like 4-star or at max at 5-star, but I wouldn't recommend to get it to 5-star. But I wouldn't recommend to upgrade it to 5-star. So yeah, you have the attack main stat and crit damage. Okay. Where for the Essence Quencher, for example, you have a crit damage main stat, okay, which is much harder to achieve. All right, so this is one thing that makes me think that this is, the better relic for general use. And also, it's from the clan group. You don't get that many relic mats from the clan group. You're very limited to the amount of relic mats from the clan group, where from the Chimera relic mats, you get them every week by just doing Chimera, okay? That is kind of the thing that you have to keep in mind. This is much more harder to get than the other one. It has also the main stat, which is, better, the crit damage, and it's a little bit different. So the wearer's damage is increased by 20% of the target's current turn meter. So that means if your target is at 100% turn meter, you will deal 20% more damage, okay? Damage cannot be increased by more than 10% and 5% against bosses. So that means if you are at, if you hit a champion at like 50% turn meter or more, you're already capped out on the extra damage, okay? That's 10% at max. Now I use this relic quite a lot, as you can see. I think it's very, very good for like general use for faction wars champions, or if you want to tune your Titus teams, for example, or Hydra teams to get a champion with a higher crit damage than your main damage dealer. Okay, that's where this is very nice as well. But in general, it's also better because you don't necessarily rely on killing a champion. You will always have that extra damage. That is kind of like the better thing about this. Now, if you take it to rank 4, like I did here, your max damage will increase, okay? So with level 4, you will have 16% damage as max and 8% against bosses. So that means for like non-boss champions, you will be maxed out on your extra damage at like 80% turn meter, okay? 80% turn meter and plus, that's where the extra damage is maxed out at 16%, okay? 10% of 80% turn meter is 8, and that times 2, that's where you hit the 16% max damage. And like I said, you have the crit damage as main stat, which is definitely much better than having attack as a main stat. But then you also have triangular gem slots. And triangular gem slots can be quite amazing. For one, you have this target smash gemstone, which increases the damage of the wearer by 1% per 100 of their total accuracy. If you have 400, 500 accuracy, that's 4% to 5% more damage. But then you also have gemstones like this, which is probably one of the best gemstones for PvE. The wearer will ignore 3% of the target's defense if the target is under 2 or more debuffs, and you can socket this 2 times into this relic, which is another 6% death ignore. Death ignore in PvE is absolutely busted. This will improve your damage a lot. So yeah, in my opinion, this relic right here, for general use, this right here is much better. It's harder to get. I think this would benefit, you know, the normal player more than this one right here. Now, I'm not going to even talk about this one right here, the collective, because this is probably one of the worst legendary relics we have in the game. The wearer deals a percentage amount more damage per buff on them, removes all buffs from the wearer at the end of each turn. So let's play this out. You know, your buffs are maxed out at 10. That means if we take this relic to 4, okay? Let's take this relic to 4. That would mean we would get 2.5% more damage per buff. That means 25% more damage, okay? 25% more damage seems like it's a lot, but then again, why not just use an Erratic Coronet, which is an epic relic, much easier to get, and will always give you 30% more damage in general. Obviously, you have to stack it up. So I guess you could also utilize it somehow in like speed farming comps where you only hit once. Like when you try to one-shot stuff, 25% damage is a lot. But then why not use something else? What I do like about this one is the crit damage also as main stat. I like that. And then you have HP. So theoretically, you could use this on a champion that doesn't necessarily debuff. But then for like speed farming, one-shotting stuff, you prefer the Gore Crescent and on splash damage champions. But I can't think of another champion that would utilize this and, you know, benefit from losing the buffs in the end. There's just not, you know, the fitting champion right now in the game. Maybe there will be in the future, removing all buffs from the wearer at the end of each turn. That's kind of like the problem. A lot of people are thinking Seer might be a good option, but you kind of remove the buffs before you deal damage with Seer, with the max HP attack, so it doesn't really work. You don't have any buffs on Seer when you deal the damage because you already consumed them, and I don't know if it counts. I don't know if this relic will take place then. But yeah, maybe you guys know where to use this relic, but I can't think of a champion where this would be useful. Anyway, with that being said, like mentioned before, this one is the best choice, in my opinion, for general use, harder to get, better main stat, and better gemstone shapes. And these are my thoughts, my opinion. Now it seems like most players are going for Gore Crescent, which doesn't make sense to me because you will end up having more Gore Crescents than Essence Quenchers. And that's just a fact, because you get a lot more relic mats from Chimera than from the clan group. And that's just how it is. So yeah, I hope this will help you to, make your decision. Obviously, let me know in the comments below if you disagree. I'm always open for discussion. But yeah, in general, I think this is pretty nice that they just hand out free relics for everybody, especially for newer players. This is massive. This amount of crit damage is not easy to get. Also the extra damage, and then also the free goodies here on the reward calendar. I'm very, very curious what is going to be in there. A lot of people are speculating if it's going to be that Void Legendary Solanar, but I don't think so. But we will see. Maybe it is. That would be crazy, right? I will also do a video on the Fusion and give you my thoughts on that. Keep an eye out. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. It really goes a long way. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more raid content. The YouTube algorithms can suggest you a video that you might like right here. And see you in the next one.